So far we've got a character that can move and dash in 2D, which we made in the tutorials found in the description. Now we'll add changing direction with a new dash, limiting the dashes to 3 until you touch a wall, and a pose while dashing. And just to check what happens if I tap it. Yeah, so at the moment, when I tap square, it isn't refiguring out the new direction I want to move in. So I think we need to tweak that. Yeah, instead of this directly affecting the freeze, we'll have an AND gate over here, going into the freeze. And that means all of the inputs on this AND gate have to be true for it to be frozen. So it has to be during this over here. So I'm just going to use a switch going into the first one, and that is kind of it. We're currently dashing. Normally that will be off, and then this keyframe will turn that on. So that will allow it to freeze if possible. But also we want to make sure we didn't get a new press of this square button. So if we go use a NOT gate, then that's fine. I'll wire that in there. So remember, this is a pulse, so it's a really short signal when we want to start to dash. So that means that we don't want that to be frozen when we get that signal. So when we're not starting a new dash and we're still dashing from the previous animation, then we want to freeze the signal manipulator. Right, so let's try that. So I'll dash up and then left, and then up, and then right, and then down, and then left, and then up. So it's all working, and then as soon as that's all done, then it falls to the ground. Cool. But we only have a certain number of dashes we're allowed before we touch the ground or a wall. So we need a counter to count up how many dashes we've done. So I'll get a counter over here. So we want to have a target of 3, that's the maximum we're allowed. And then as this goes up, when it gets to 3, this will be full because it's the same number as the target value. And that will be sending a signal. So while that's sending a signal, we don't want to allow it to have another dash. So if we put that into a NOT gate, we're only allowed to dash while that's not full. And this is the thing that lets us do a new dash. So we'll power that only while this isn't full. And then we'll put that back to 0. And when we actually do a dash, we want to increase the count. So let's just have a little number displayer so you can see what's going on with the counter. And we'll show the current count. So we've got dash, 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 and now I'm like pressing square and nothing's happening. But we need, now it's not resetting when we hit the ground or a wall. So we need to find out if we're touching some other object, and we'll do that with a impact sensor. And this has a bumps that'll do. So while we're in the air, we're not going to bump anything. And then when we hit a wall, we bump something, so we'll reset the count. So now let's try that. So 3, and I'll keep pressing square, and now reset. So if I do 3 going up, and then I'll keep on pressing square, and it only does another 3 dashes when we hit the ground. And if we have like a side wall over here, okay, so I'll dash up, and then as soon as we touch the wall, it goes to 0. So go up like that, and then now I can dash again because I touched the wall. Tweak the dash to be a bit quicker and shorter. So I'm going to use L1 and right on here to adjust to stretch it, so like a 1 second takes up more space on the screen. You get finer precision on here. Okay. So these are dashes. Cool. and I think I'll give it a pose just while we're dashing. So it's going to be side on. So I think I'll have like a bit of a Superman type thing. And that pose will be active during the same time, so I'll call this pose. But also we don't want that to be interfered with by the other poses which are in here, which use those outputs from the puppet interface. So we'll just turn that off. I'll just use the same keyframe to turn the normal running around poses off. So I think the idle thing is kicking in while we're dashing, so I'm going to turn the idle, face camera and idle off. Yeah, so it's doing it, but it's like really short. Also, it's still trying to run, so I need to turn off some settings in here, which are auto look and the procedural animation stuff. We don't want it to procedurally animate at all, we just want it to look like that. Cool, and I'll give it just a tiny bit of, instead of it suddenly snapping into these poses, I'll give it a tiny bit of slow power up and slow power down. So it kind of animates in a bit.